So, what did you think? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
Leads us to the biggest question of the whole journey here. Vince, where does The Family Man from the year 2000, this was the only film he did in the year 2000, by the way, so we will never get to say the year 2000 again.
Why 2K?
On the show. Where does The Family Man rate on your Cageometer?
All right. Movie, I'll give it a 7. I thought it was, I remember really enjoying this when I saw it years ago. It's been 10 plus years since I've seen it. And I was glad to see that it still held up. Like we talked about, I think we could have trimmed some of it out. Like you said, about 15, 20 minutes and tightened it up a little bit. But it wasn't one of the films that we've watched where I was checking the timestamp to see how much longer I had in it. I thought the story overall was pretty good. I wish they had done a little better job at developing his character in the sense of he's seeing this life and realizing that it's the life that he wants. I think we talked about it a little bit. It felt a little rushed, like the ending. I can get that maybe they were trying to go for it being like as jarring for him as it is for the audience, but it fell a little flat, which is probably why some of the reviews were so low. But overall, I think it's a pretty good movie. Definitely a movie that I enjoy watching again, and I'll probably go back and watch it again down the road. Cage, I'll give him a 7 as well. If he hadn't got so cagey at moments, I would have given him an 8 because I thought he did a really good job. And
I love those cagey moments. So.
I do too, but it pulls me out of the movie, pulls me out of the character. So for me, it knocks it down by 1 point. But I thought, he does such a great job. It's just kind of like that detached, depressed person, like that first day where he's going through and trying to understand everything that's going on. Like he's so good at being detached, just like he's just you feel like his confusion is genuine. Is the main point I'm trying to make. And then those moments of like pure love for Kate. I felt like he did a great job at really like radiating the fact that he really does still have feelings for this woman, and like he has fallen in love with her again. And I think if he hadn't been able to do that, it would have felt really flat. If he wasn't able to convey that he was rediscovering the love he had for this woman, this movie would have just fucking sucked. It would have been awful. It'd just been a dude running around being crazy for 125 minutes. So I thought he did a really good job there, and I really liked his interactions with Annie. I thought that was very heartwarming too, especially as he does start to appreciate and love her more. Like it felt really genuine. And then what really solidified a positive score is just, we talked about it a little bit, is as he's wrapping up the final day in that life, that scene of him sitting in the chair, like trying to stay awake, knowing that falling asleep means that this life is going to be pulled away from him. I felt that was a very emotional impact. Like I felt like they did such a great job at acting it, framing it, and getting that point across to when he does wake up the next morning. You do feel bad, like, oh fuck, well, now he's back in this other life that he doesn't want anymore.
That he once loved, and
that he once loved, and now he doesn't want it anymore. He wants to go back to that other life because of how more fulfilling it was on a personal level to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, 7 for both. Really glad this movie holds up, because I would have been disappointed if I didn't enjoy it, because I loved it when I first saw it. I thought it was really good. Yeah, very different than The Weatherman, which I thought was good.
This was the first movie in the Man trilogy, so the stories, I feel like, okay, so I love imagining them as all connected. The Weatherman, obviously we've seen that the man has taken a change.
Yeah.
And he's dropped the stockbroker thing, and he's gone to just being a weatherman now. But then the Wicker Man just takes a real 180, the whole feel of this Man trilogy. It's just confusing. It's confusing. It's a confusing narrative throughout the 3 Man movies, but feel like out of the three, this one's probably the most heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one delivers on what it was trying to do. I think out of the three, the best.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Yeah. It's the Dark Knight of the trilogy. Of the Man trilogy.
Nigel, where does The Family Man rate on your Cageometer?
This movie was a very pleasant surprise for me. Prior to doing the show, I don't think I'd even heard of it. Like, I certainly don't. I've never seen it. I don't remember hearing about it. And I know I wasn't the target audience when it came out. Like 2000, I was 14, I think, or something like that. So
I feel like it's been largely forgotten for whatever reason.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just
it's not one of those ones that comes up. It could be, but it also could be like I don't know, it's a Christmas family movie. It's not something Nicolas Cage is normally known for, and it's not like over the top. But anyway,
and it didn't
really
get great
enjoyed
reviews.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that. Like, I'm honestly surprised that it reviewed so low because I gave it an 8 out of 10. Like, it was one of the. I wasn't enjoying it as much in the opening because it felt like, this guy's kind of. I was going to watch this guy be a jerk for the rest of this movie. Where, obviously no, but it felt like it's fish out of water, but also like he's just a sort of asshole, but he's not, because we see that he's a good guy in the start when he's trying to buy a lotto ticket, and he's been put in an impossible situation, so he's completely thrown off guard and stuff. But part of that, I think, is Cage's performance sells it really well. But yeah, it was surprisingly heartfelt, heartwarming movie with a good message. I liked that it doesn't have the typical "It's a Wonderful Life" happy ending. Doesn't end up back with in that life through magic or mumbo jumbo or whatever he says, which I was expecting. Like, he's gonna fall asleep, but he's gonna wake up, and it's still gonna be that life. Like, he doesn't get to go back to his thing. But it had a more realistic message, I guess, of like, that's a glimpse. You don't actually get that life. That's what you lost through your choices in life. But it's not the end of the story. You could have something similar to that,
still
because
build
now
an amazing life with this person that
you know what's
love.
important to you.
Yeah.
So I liked that message a lot. It wasn't expected. I also didn't know what to expect with this movie. I didn't read the synopsis of it before I started watching it, so I didn't know that this is what it was going to turn into. So maybe that's why I was more happy with it than audiences when it came out. Maybe they were sold a different type of movie through ads, or who knows. I don't know what the marketing was like at the time.
Yeah.
And also, I think as a father, it affected me differently than it would have. Like, if I'd watched this movie 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. But it felt very genuine with those family moments that he has, and those interactions he has with Kate and like Vince said, their acting really sells it. Like, you get their relationship. You get that they actually care about each other. It feels that way. So it's heart-wrenching when all that's taken away, just as it is for the character. And I think the movie does a really good job of building that up to that point where when that's taken away, you really feel that emptiness that Jack is feeling, which you wouldn't expect from how he acts in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So
completely reframes and repaints that life that he loved at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think you can start the movie and think, like, this guy's got a pretty awesome life. Like, he's good at his job. Everybody likes him. He's happy at it. He's happy in it. He's successful. It's something he loves doing. He's jazzed up about it. And then you see that context taken and put in a different light, and see that he could have been happy in another life as well, and is happier in that life, and he didn't realize it. So I think it does a good job of telling that story. Like you said, it does what it set out to do a lot better than I think some of the other movies in the Man trilogy
do. I love imagining the three of these movies together as one story.
Yeah, like you said, it's just Cash giving him glimpses of different lives he could have had. So, and for Cage himself, I give him a 9 out of 10 on this one. This is one of his better performances. I really felt almost every facet of the character through this journey that he went on. I felt like in the beginning he's
he's not really an asshole, but he is that driven businessman who sacrificed something to get to where he is, and when that's taken away from him, he's understandably upset and confused and thrown off guard, and you see all that in his performance as well. He sells it really well, and then he slowly adjusts to this life that he could have had, and you see that he gets won over by it and really appreciates it, and you feel his loss when he loses it, and then that triumph at the end when he's got that glimpse of being able to get it back, and he goes for it. You feel that all of that through that performance of it. I think he does a really good job in this of selling it. Yeah. And I'll harp on it again. His not harp on it, but I'll bang that drum again, beat that drum. That his physical performance is really good too. You can see it in his body language through all parts of this movie. You can see what he's thinking and what he's feeling through how he carries himself and his physical energy in different parts of it. This is just I think it's an underrated performance. Again, it's one that slipped under a lot of people's radar, but this is a really great effort by him for a movie that I don't think a lot of people really know, or at least certainly I didn't, who talk about stuff. So this is to me this is a hidden gem on both fronts, both the film and his performance of it.
I think that's one of the. I know we've talked about it before, but I think that's one of the best things about this show is like we keep finding these little hidden gems that people may or may not have even heard of or taken the time to watch. And there are so many Cage performances like this, and I feel like that's one of the driving forces for this show is like kind of giving a little bit more light to those, because I had seen a lot of these movies younger, and I remember them being amazing, and then for some reason in like, I don't know, 2008, 9, somewhere in there, everybody started making Nick Cage a joke. It was like, did you see Red Rock West? Did you see Vampire's Kiss? I mean,
even now, Vampire's Kiss still gets some flack because I just don't think people. We talked about it, but I don't think people really understand what that film is, and I'm guilty of that too. I did not understand that film when I was younger. Having rewatched it for the show, I have a whole new appreciation for that film and his performance in it. I mean, I wish people would go back and give it a shot, and I think they would be surprised at how ahead of the time that film was.
I fucking love that movie, man. It's a masterpiece.
It's great. Yeah, and it really
it's one of the two of the movies that I bought since we started doing the show after watching it, which was that and Mandy.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like these hidden gems, like Mandy. I heard about it one time prior to the show, and I never watched it because it's just like one of those things. Where like I just assumed it was in the category of bad films that he did during that time, and I'm mad that I didn't see it sooner because it is one of the best films I've ever fucking watched and one of the best performances he's done. And
Mandy is a masterpiece.
and I'm worried that Pig, if we weren't doing the show, I'm worried that Pig might have fallen into that same category. Pig is by far one of my favorite movies of all time.
I think Pig would have fallen out. I don't even think maybe even I would have watched it, though. I did see the Rotten Tomatoes scores, but that was, I've been paying attention to Nick Cage,
we were paying attention.
Obviously.
We were hyper focused on him at that time, which I don't think I would have been if we hadn't been doing the show, and I would have missed out
I
on
wouldn't have been.
Incredible film.
Yeah. So this is another one of those. I think this movie affected me in a way that I don't think it would have affected me when I saw it first 20 years ago or 22 years ago. Oh my God, life goes way too fast, man.
Yep.
So as a 18-year-old, when I saw the movie the first time, I definitely had a sentimental feeling towards it. But I don't think I had it quite as much as I do as a 40-year-old man who's been married for a decade and been with my wife for almost 20 years. So like, for me, I think it affected me in a different way. And I think it probably affects Nigel in a completely different way with having a child. So I gave it an 8. My complaints are that it's a little long. I do feel like it's a little long. I feel like there's a lot pushed into it. But at the same time, I can't really like hate on what's in the movie. I feel like everything that was presented to us was presented really well. And we're living in an era of movies that are, 3 hours long. So, I can't really be upset with it being 2 hours and 5 minutes, but at the same time, it feels long for what it is.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I'd bump it down just a little bit. And I also feel like the transition between the stockbroker to the family man was a little rushed. I feel like it was kind of sudden. It was like, when he goes to the restaurant with her on her anniversary. And also, there are things that set that up. Like when he gets teared up when he sees that she bought him the suit, and she's like, he finally realizes, like, oh, we don't have this kind of money, and you still did this amazing thing for me. I think it makes him realize something that he had never realized up to that point, because he had money his whole, post-college life, and possibly even pre-college. Like, he hadn't really realized what life is actually like for most normal human beings who aren't working on Wall Street. So there is that sentimental arc, but at the same time, I do feel like it's just kind of rushed. I feel like they could have sprinkled in a few things to kind of, like, I don't know, give him a few, like, little moments with Annie, a couple little moments with Kate that cemented that home just a touch more. I don't understand the 5.5. Like, it feels harsh, and maybe it was like a cynical audience in the year 2000 that was like, oh, well, here's another Christmas movie and Nick Cage trying to be a family man. I don't know what it was. I don't really understand why it got such a low score, because it is a genuinely great movie.
Maybe people thought it was ripping on Wonderful Life too much and stuff, but I think it could be. It changes the formula enough that it's a twist on A Wonderful Life or A Christmas Story, or not Christmas, A Christmas Carol. That I appreciate that aspect of it. It's not the same story you've seen told a bunch of times, really.
Yeah,
they put a spin on it.
I will say that I found it kind of unbelievable, the reason that Kate decides to have the cup of coffee with him. Like, I know that we're supposed to be like, oh, well, she held him in her heart from that version of Kate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's like, we have a house in Jersey. We have children. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It makes me wonder if maybe that is the life that she imagined they would have had they stayed together. And maybe that's why she's so caught off guard by him saying these things.
Maybe that glimpse is her vision of the life, and that's where Cash got it from and showed it to.
That's a good point, because she's very adamant about the life that they would live in that house.
That does make it feel different if you think of it in that term.
Yeah.
So I guess if you take that,
because you're right, there is that scene where she talks about, like, I thought this was the house that we'd grow old in,
that we would grow old,
all this stuff.
Our grandchildren would come visit.
She had this vision of what.
Well, he turned into a robot for a minute.
He's back.
Yeah. So maybe you're right. Maybe Cash took her vision that she had for their life and gave it to him as a glimpse. And so that she's like, oh, fuck.
I like that idea.
He knows this. Like, I like that.
Wow, he knows exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
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 And it shows him that he wants those things too. Like that.
Yeah.
They're compatible because they both want that.
Yeah.
Or wish they had that.
I like that.
But first they have to snuff
as far as Cage, they gotta go kill Robert Downey Sr., which won't be hard. Put a bottle of alcohol in front of him.
Jesus. God. Fuck, cut that.
I'm just saying, Robert Downey Jr. has problems for a reason.
Yeah.
And it all started from childhood. Just read up on Robert Downey Sr. for a minute. Anyways, we're not harping on Robert Downey Sr. We're harping on Brett Ratner. Okay, that's what this episode is about. As far as Cage, I gave him an 8 as well. Like, I felt his performance in this movie. Like Nigel said, like, you really feel he loves that life. and then he sees this other life and he hates it. And then you see him slowly fall in love with this life. And then when he gets back to that life that he used to love, you can tell he absolutely is shattered to go back to that reality of like, he just feels emptiness when he gets back to it. Yeah. And I think, you know, his whole life had been about living this life he thought he wanted. And then once he sees what life could have been, it just opens his eyes, and suddenly everything just feels pointless without that love that he had, you know. And I think anybody who's kind of experienced that sort of love feels the same way. Like, I don't give a shit if we're poor as long as I have that love in my life, you know. And I think that it's very sentimental, but it's very poignant and it's very true. And I think, yeah, I've felt that in this movie.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
Yeah, it fits perfectly with the Christmas theme, kind of love and family on Christmas, and I guess that's where I'll leave my review. I don't really know what else to say about Cage, but great performance, great movie, 8 out of 10. Yeah.